of Illinois is gearing up to tax social media platforms in their new budget approved earlier this month. The revenue package includes a whole bunch of tax increases in a variety of capacities, but it's meant to include a social media platform that Governor J.B. Pritzker suggested could generate $200 million for public education. Now, similar moves are being made across the country. A plan to tax digital advertising for the first time and use an estimated $500 million in new annual revenue to give property tax rebates to seniors won bipartisan support in the House of Pennsylvania. And that was earlier this week. Here is just some of the debates that was covered at the Center Square out of the Pennsylvania House.
The amount of digital ad revenue based on digital ads that are targeted to Pennsylvanians is over $11 billion a year. Applying the 5% gross receipts tax to digital ad revenue could be resulting in revenue to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania of more than $500 million a year. This is a large and growing number. Digital ad revenue around the United States grew 13% last year, 14% the year before, and a 5-year projection shows that it's going to keep growing. My amendment applies the revenue collected from the gross receipts tax by applying the gross receipts tax to digital ad revenue to property tax relief to homeowners who are over 65 or who live with someone over 65.
So you're going to have 8 school districts in this Commonwealth receive a windfall of $500 million in tax relief for their seniors. I would love to work on an amendment that would actually take these dollars, any dollars, and apply them. And I would much rather see substantive property tax relief for every single homeowner in this Commonwealth. And we have many opportunities in this legislative session to do just that. Unfortunately, they all seem to fail by one vote.
Now, the bill, it's going to be heading towards the Republican-controlled Pennsylvania Senate, where it faces an uncertain future. To talk more about this is the Center Square Regional Editor, Kristen Smith. Kristen, thanks for taking time with us. What are some of the reactions your team's hearing on this particular proposal? I mean, $500 million, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And on the surface, I think it sounds like a great idea. Who doesn't want to take that money and reduce property taxes for seniors? However, a tax on a big business like this would be, like Google, Meta, Amazon, that also is a tax on smaller businesses. And so a lot of the conversation is around that, as far as you start big and it always filters down, and then the consumer, or in this case, the taxpayer, ends up covering that extra cost that is borne by the big guys.
Yeah, businesses never really pay the tax. It's somehow pushed onto the consumer.
Right.
That's a go-to argument here. But yeah, $500 million. It seems that at least one person in the House pushed back and said, why don't we just start making property tax relief possible for all property taxpayers in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that's something that is a perennial discussion in Pennsylvania, and it feels as likely as a meteor coming and falling out of the sky. There's been a lot of debate over the years about how to lower property taxes, but at the end of the day, generally what we get is bills like this that would raise taxes in another part of the economy to take that money and to give it to very targeted groups of taxpayers. Meanwhile, everyone else in the middle is not only paying extra on the front end for services that they interact with in their daily lives, but also higher taxes.
Kristen, the legislature in session till the end of this month, correct?
Yes. I mean, that's the plan.
That's the plan. And
yeah.
Is this part of like the overall budget conversation, or would this be a separate measure that would essentially levy this new tax on digital advertisements?
The legislature loves to put tax policies like this into effect right around this time of year. Their budget's due every year at the end of the month, or at the end of this month. And so there is a big opportunity for them to update the tax law to include these things. So it's not a now or never, but there is a strong possibility that a tax policy like this could happen by June 30th. That's if they get their ducks in a row and actually pass a budget.
Now you've got, again, the House passing this, seemingly bipartisan support, but what happens when you get to the Senate? It's an interesting dynamic in Pennsylvania that I think people need to really understand.
The Senate is controlled by Republicans, and they're very unlikely to accept a House bill as is. There's a lot of contention there. And like we said before, they're worried about the downstream effect of raising taxes and how that will end up coming back on the cost of the consumer. And so that's definitely going to be a stumbling block in the Senate. And even the governor himself is saying that they're looking at the legislation, but they're really not committing one way or another as to whether they think this is a good idea.
Kristen, we heard earlier about Illinois having already passed some kind of, social media fee. Is this something that's, now it's Pennsylvania's talking about somehow charging a fee on digital ad taxes? Is this something you see other states possibly looking to implement?
It's certainly growing across the country. Pennsylvania, like you just said, is not the only place. Gross receipts tax have been expanded many times over the last 100 years, and we pay it through utility bills. We pay it through our cell phones. It basically seems that every time technology advances, lawmakers turn around and expand gross receipts tax to the newest thing. So digital ads are truly the next generation of that. So even if Pennsylvania doesn't get it this year or in the next couple of months, it's not like there's not a wave of this happening throughout the country.
Kristen, to wrap things up here, as we were talking, you've got the digital ad tax that the Senate could take up in Pennsylvania. What does the next 3 weeks look like for Pennsylvania taxpayers and their state government, possibly letting taxpayers know exactly how much of their money they're going to be spending?
It's a lot of uncertainty. It's the biggest time of the year for that. We are short $5 billion in what we need to cover our bills. That's been the case for years. There's also a lot of big spending priorities for public education, and it will come down to how much of the can be kicked down the road over the next 12 months fiscally in order to survive that budget gap. And generally speaking, a successful budget year is when taxes aren't raised and education gets more money. So that will be a big part of the final goal of the end of this month.
And again, $500 million from a digital ad tax sounds like a lot of money. Who's ultimately going to be paying for that? And some of the concerns we heard earlier about, is this something that's going to help all Pennsylvanians, or is it just going to go to certain school districts and for seniors? And where's that conversation about, again, leveling it out for everybody? Be sure to subscribe to the Center Square's newsletter to get Pennsylvania headlines in your inbox each and every weekday, with Kristen Smith and her team keeping an eye on what's going on in Pennsylvania.